Hi everyone, Radio Man here. So, a couple of you guys have been asking a lot of questions about the Cobra 2000 recap project. I'm not going to do an entire video on how, watch a video of me doing this entire project. I don't think people are really going to be interested in. But first of all, you're going to need some sort of a workbench space that you can kind of leave your radio at, so you can take your time with this project. Some of the things, so what I chose to do is I went with Klondike Mike, does capacitor kits, which are all the capacitors, the electrolytics, not the tantalums. If you want to do the tantalums, you're going to have to source those another way. But this does all the capacitors in the radio, including the frequency counter. About 25 bucks. You get that, and the other thing you'll get is a PDF. I just printed it from him that comes on a password protected website, which is kind of handy, pointing out where all the capacitors are. So those are I'm going to go through some stuff that I suggest having. A pen and paper to write down the ones that you've done as you replace them. This is not totally necessary, but an LCR meter to be able to test the capacitors as I remove them. Well, I say that's not totally necessary, is maybe you're just replacing them all, you don't care. But I've done 4 so far. They're here in this jar, and I'm checking them. So far, 2 of them are bad out of the 4. One of them was in the receiver section, which was leaky. You could see it start to charge up and quickly discharge. It could never get. That was in the receive section, and the other one was in the power supply section, which was just bad. It wouldn't even fully charge up. And by charge up, I guess I'm not using the right term there, but this LCR meter will actually tell you, well, I'll show you real quick. I'll just grab a cap here, one of these new ones. Let's see. This is rated for 4.7 microfarads. So you turn your meter on, you set your range appropriately, just like on a voltmeter. So we know it's over 2 microfarads, but it's not over 20, so that's the correct range. You hook your negative probes up to the negative side, which is marked negative on there, and your positive probe, and this should hopefully charge up somewhere into the ballpark of 4.7 microfarads. That's well within tolerance, 4.94. So when I hook up the bad capacitor, you're going to check what it's rated for and test it. Not totally necessary. Sorry, trying to stay in the camera frame here. So pen and paper, you get your notes, you get your bag of capacitors, your workbench. You're going to be doing a lot of this, going one side to the other, one side to the other. So I tucked the cord up into it. I got a little work mat. You're going to need, make sure that's in the camera frame. I will zoom in on that a little bit. You're going to need some sort of a soldering station like this. I highly recommend. Now this is like an off-brand, a Yeehaw, or I don't even know how you pronounce that. Yeehaw, I don't know, guys. But it's kind of like a Harbor Freight situation. It's only $100, but I've been using it and it seems to be pretty good. Let's see if I can get that. I don't know if you can see. But anyways, there is a hole in the middle of this tip here, and when you pull the trigger, there's a vacuum in this pump, and it sucks out, so the solder gets liquidous and it's pulled in. This makes changing a capacitor a snap. You get in there, and I highly recommend doing that. I know some people have recommended the method where you heat up the capacitor and pull one side, you back it out. If you're inexperienced doing this, let me, before I go on, and it comes with a pencil tip all in one station. So you just flip the switch. It's temperature controlled. I'm running at about 720 degrees. Kind of like welding. some solderers do, does it specify the temperature on here? I kind of run my temp where the flow is good. If it's not flowing good, you don't want it, like, I try to start low and work my way up. If I'm not getting good flow with the solder and it's not melting the joint evenly enough, I bump it up 50 degrees. And I get it to that point where it flows and I don't run it any hotter than I need to. Let me just zoom back out. So I highly recommend something like this. It's not that much money. I don't recommend using solder wick. This is a single-sided PCBA. And by single-sided, what I mean is the top half of this board, oh, there's no foil here, right? This side of the board has all your foil connections. It's very easy to start lifting traces on here, where it's what they call an unsupported hole. So with something like this, and I'm going to show you guys that in the video, you can hit that joint very quickly, suck the solder out, you're in and out in seconds. As opposed to hitting it with heat, wiggling it out, hitting it with more heat. If any of you guys have ever done body work before, right? When you do body work, you just don't take your welder and go, you're gonna warp the crap out of the metal. You tack, 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 right? Kind of the same thing. You don't want to be sinking a bunch of heat into this board. Wick's good for cleaning up a pad. You really need some sort of a pump. And I don't recommend the walkout method. Like some people say, you heat it up and you grab on this side and you bend the capacitor, right? And then you do the other side and you back it. I don't like that. You're going to damage the board. So, solder pump, a space that you can work and have enough room to work. Whoops, I'm still zoomed in, aren't I? There we go. Sorry about that, guys. I have enough space to work on my radio and to be able to do this without causing damage to my radio. What I'll do next is I will pause the video, I'll get the iron all heated up, and I'll show you my method on changing out a capacitor. So let me pause this video. Okay guys, we're back. Let's see if I can focus that. There we go. So let's, two things I also forgot to mention is you're going to want flux. I'm using a no clean liquid flux that comes in a pen like this. I still clean it. The reason why we clean flux is, I don't have it here handy, but some of the flux paste is actually acidic. It can cause corrosion. I mean, it improves the aesthetic appearance as well. It's just better to remove the flux. The no clean flux, you don't have to, but I still choose to do it. A toothbrush. So what I'll do is I'll apply a little IPA to the board. Initially, I'll give it a little bit of a scrub just in the area where I've soldered, and then I'll put a rag over it and I'll scrub around it, and what'll happen is the rag will wick some of that material up and it looks a lot better. So here we are looking in the back corner of the radio. I'm going to zoom in. So I'm going to show you how do you figure out which side of the board. So this cap right here, let's zoom in a little tighter so you guys can see. You can actually see, when you get zoomed in like that, there we go. You can actually see pretty good there. That's C214 that we want to go after. I'm not going to put the paper in the frame, but I'm going to look at my list. It says here that C214 is, of course now I can't find it on my list. I should have been more prepared. Why the hell am I not seeing it? Oh, 47 microfarads at 25 volts. So one of the things we want to do is we want to know the orientation. I can see from here that, stick my head in the frame, don't mind me. Yep. So this side is the negative side when we pull the cap out. So you want to remember that the negative is pointing towards the front of the radio. So as I'm going like this, that's the front of the radio. This right here is the back of the radio. So the negative is pointing towards the front and the positive should be pointing towards, we want to keep that in mind. So we want to take your time when you do this. You could very easily install the wrong component. You want to make notes of what you've seen. Maybe the wrong component is in place. Maybe it was installed backwards. You don't know. So we want to verify, and the board is marked. You can't see it right now, but when we pull it out, you'll see that the board is marked. So that's the component we've decided to attack. Let me pause the video and find the capacitor real quick. Okay, so I've identified the capacitor from my parts kit. And let me zoom back out here so you guys can see what's going on. So the question now becomes, so we already know we're going to be, I'm just doing this. I normally don't lean it against my solder station. I already know I'm going to be somewhere in this corner of the radio. This may seem kind of hokey, but it works for me. And I'm going to zoom in again on that corner. How am I going to do this? Pause again. So I zoomed in on the area I'm going to be working. This may seem kind of hokey, but this works pretty good for me. I'm just using a simple little AA flashlight. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the center of the beam on the back side of the board over the capacitor. It's not foolproof because if you'll notice here, let me get a better pointer. If you notice here, the area that I'm going to be working in, it's all ground over here, right? But we have some exposed trace here, and the capacitor is not going to be totally on ground, but we're going to get a little bit of light through here, as you're going to see, and it's going to kind of get you in the ballpark. There's going to be a lot of moving this back and forth. This is a time-consuming job. So what I do is I take my little light and I put the beam right on the capacitor, and now you can see we've lit up the board, right? So what I know is we see the lights here, right? And we know that the capacitor needs to be on some sort of a ground here, and we can see a little bit of light here, and we see a lot of light here because the board's exposed. Now, just for brevity, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put the light in the same spot it was shining through, and I'm going to look at the back side of the board. And what it's going to do, I'll show you guys, as I think it's worthwhile for you guys to see. Oh, can we see what's happening here? I think so. Get that out of the way. Scheißen. Okay. Yeah, there's the capacitor working on. So I'm going to do the same thing on the back side of the board. Where was I? Right here. This is the trace that I believe it's in. And you can see that the light is lighting up that capacitor. And you can see over here, if I move over that big open area where the light's really bright, and you can see here where that capacitor is. So if I look on the back side of this board, I can see this little island of a trace here. So I believe I've identified the solder joint. Okay, flip this around. And what I believe, and if I'm wrong, if I'm right, the capacitor is going to fall right out like butter. If I'm wrong, well, I just got to reflow the solder. No big deal. So let me get back to where we were, over here. So the joint that I believe that I need to hit is right here and right here. So I'm going to pause the video again because my solder station, my solder station's warmed up, ready to go. Let me reset the camera. Okay guys, I've moved that in as tight as I can get it, so hopefully this is going to be a little weird because I'm trying to stay out of the shot and I want to make sure. So let me just do a test check here. Yeah, you guys should be able to see what's happening pretty good. All right, so here you go. Bob's your uncle. Solder gets liquidous. Pull, whoops. And guys, I am normally not this jumpy, but I'm trying to stay on camera. I typically, and you're going to kind of want to do that a little bit. Like you're going to want to sweep it around. Let me look over that. I don't think I got that one that good. Let me grab the other one again. I'll try to stay out of the shot for you guys. I may have gotten that. If you didn't get it, one of the things you could do is you could reflow some solder in and then try again. I'm just gonna, real quickly here while the video's rolling, I'm just gonna do this. Get my finger on it and oh, yeah, I got it, guys. Let's see. Is it still? See how it's wiggling? Okay, so I got all the solder. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna, like, you shouldn't have to yank these out. See how it's moving? It's nice and loose. That came out nice and easy. If you start yanking on that, you could pull those traces apart. So here's the cap here. Remember earlier in the video I said that the negative is going towards the front of the radio. What'd we say? 47 microfarads. Let's pause the video and see, check the orientation. Okay guys, we're back. You can see C214. I'll get my pointer out here. Right there. And as you can see, where the reference designator is, the positive's going to the back of the radio, like I said, negative's going to the front of the radio. We've confirmed that the capacitor is indeed correct. It was installed correctly. Let's measure it. So maybe I can do this so you guys can see what I'm doing. Can you see that meter okay? Guys, I'm doing the best I can with this. Oh, that's nice. I'm just gonna do this off screen so you guys can see. So I'm gonna hook up to the negative side with my meter. With any luck, that should come out. Oh, we got to adjust our range. Here, let's zoom out so you guys can see what I'm doing here. So we're on the 20 microfarad. Well, that's not high enough, so we need to bump up to the 200. And touch this to the positive. And with any luck, oh, look at that, guys. Oh, they touch. So if the tips touch, tips touch. So that's under half of the rated capacity. That's well out of tolerance. I don't know what the tolerance is, but I guarantee you that the tolerance is probably going to be closer to 10%, and that's well outside of 10%. That should be reading somewhere in the ballpark of 47 microfarads, and it's reading 11 and a half. So I have to look to see what component. So one of the questions that came up, and I'm saving all these till I'm done in case there's ever a question. My pen and paper here. So I'm doing this as an experiment because a lot of you guys have been asking me, you know, are you finding that they're bad? So I got my little piece of paper here. I'm left-handed, so sorry. C214. 11.5 microfarads, and the ones that come up not up to snuff, I'm circling. I'll have to look on the schematic to see where that is to get an idea. Like, I had receive issues, so when I pulled out this first cap in the receiver circuit, you know, okay, you know, so the next thing we need to do is install the new capacitor. So let me zoom out again. I'm going to I'll show you guys. So right now I'm running at about 716 degrees. I'm going to flip over to the pencil tip. That's going to come up to temperature. And I've already identified the capacitor. And like I said, when I'm working, it's just I'm trying to keep all this on video. I'm not a professional videographer. So my capacitor is right here, guys. So you guys need to see what I'm doing when I install this. So let's zoom in. Guys, I appreciate hanging out for this video. I hope I'm not boring you to death, but I've been getting a lot of questions on this.
The ACO went there to check on some traps, and she saw saw an open door and there was 4 people rummaging around the house. Go ahead.
Jesus Christ. Apologize, guys. There we go. So you can see C214 there. Here's my cap, and there's the negative side. So this needs to go in just like that. See how that goes in nice and easy? And you want to seat that firmly against the board. You don't want the legs hanging up in the air. That's how she goes in, fellas. Let me pause it and flip the radio over so you can see the solder operation. Stand by. And we're back. So this little, you give this pen a little squeeze. You don't want to be douching this stuff all over your board. I've already given this pen a little squeeze to moisten up the brush. And you're just going to want to, just the area that you're going to be working. You don't need to like put this stuff on like sunblock. Just a little bit. Okay. My iron is up to temperature. You always want a clean tinned tip. I got a little sponge here. I also have one of these little fellers. Can you guys see that? I can clean my tip so that you have a clean solder joint. So we'll try this again. Like I said, I'm trying to zoom in tight so you guys can see what I'm doing. You're going to apply the tip of the iron first to heat the joint, and then you are going to feed the solder into it until you get, I might have to turn that up a little bit. There she goes. I think I might have to turn up the temperature. So that's the ground side of the board is what's happening, and it's requiring more heat. So I'm going to go up to about 780. I'm going to go up about 50 degrees. Here, we'll just hold it. There we go. And you can't see it, but the iron is telling me, okay, I'm going to wait till it reads 780. I'm going to apply a little solder to the tip, melt that off, clean the tip. Let's try that again. So that's the ground side of the board, so you have all that foil sucking up my heat. So let's try that again. All right. That doesn't look good. We may have to come back to that one. Let's secure the other side, which should be much better. That joint looks a lot better. Now, one of the things that I'm going to tell you, well, let me finish this one. Let's try, see if we can get this again. Apply a little bit heat, a little bit longer. Yeah, we need more heat. That's really being a pain in the ass. One of the things about lead-free solder, a lot of people go, oh, it's a cold solder joint. Lead-free solder looks like that. Leaded solder is very shiny. Lead-free solder will look a little kind of cloudy, so that's kind of normal. So I just turned the heat up because I'm not happy with that joint. And I'm going to try that again. There we go. You kind of see the solder. That's much better. I'm going to touch up the other joint. The other joint does not need it. So the next thing is I got to go to Harbor Freight, get a new pair of side cutters. My side cutters are embarrassing. You do not want to cut the solder joint. You risk damaging the board or the component. You want to cut the lead just above it. You should not be cutting your solder fillet. If you do, reflow the joint because you run the risk of fracturing it. So we're going to cut just above the solder fillet or the solder joint. And I held on to, I don't know if you could see that, but I'm holding on to the lead so I can keep track of it. Cut that. And that is perfectly acceptable. Some people, oh, you gotta cut them flush. Actually, for proper soldering, you need to be able to see the leg of the component sticking out of the solder fillet. As long as it doesn't have any electrical interference, like risking of any shorts, that is perfectly fine to have the component sticking out. Some of you might be asking, I don't know, like, who am I? I mean, I am trained in soldering through my employer using a system, IPC. It's a system electronics manufacturers use, and that would be considered a perfectly acceptable solder joint there. Oh, we need to do one more thing, guys. So now we got to clean the joint. I'm going to turn off my soldering iron because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to spray a little bit of alcohol on my toothbrush, and I'm just gonna, this is for you, Hawkeye, I know you like the alcohol. So what I'm doing is I'm just loosening up that flux a little bit, and then I'm going to take a rag and I'm going to hold it over the joint that I just worked on, and I'm going to work the brush back and forth, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about there. And we're going to try that one more time. A little bit more. I mean, it's getting a little better. It's much like cleaning a, you guys can't see that. Let me zoom out, it's too much. It's a little better. It's kind of like when you're running patches through a shotgun or something. Let me do that again. I'm happy with that. Just take a look at your connection. I'll zoom back in for you guys. So just so you guys know, I was just working right here. I cleaned that all up. It looks a lot nicer. The next thing I'm just going to do is I'm going to zoom back out. Now normally me doing one of these does not take that long, but zoom back in. I gotta bring the camera down. So there's our capacitor right there that we just did. Just to look at it, make sure it looks okay, and that's it. So normally it would not take this long, but I'm trying to show you guys and walk you through what I'm doing in the equipment. It does not take a half an hour to change a capacitor. If I was just doing this without having a camera and worrying about being in frame, I could probably change a capacitor out in about 10 to 15 seconds. It's pretty quick. But you guys had questions. I'm not going to go through an entire recap of this, but my next video, I'll come back when I'm done and I will give you the results of what I found out. I'm probably going to do the tantalums. I also removed this and I re-greased everything. I cleaned out all the old grease using the rubbing alcohol, or it's not rubbing alcohol, it's actually 99% IPA. I cleaned out all the old heat paste, got that out, applied new heat paste to this joint and to the bridge rectifier. And I will also do the same thing to this, which is also a heat sink here, and I'll re-grease all that. So I will come back on my next video with you guys when I've completely recapped this, and I will give you a final thing. So after this has been recapped, the next thing that we will be doing is I'm going to be adding the second receiver option for an SDR. I'll be turning this on to check it. It'll be getting realigned. I don't know. I'll have to look at, I kind of whiteboarded this out, but this is not the end of the video series. Some people may be wondering if you can solder and you're willing to make an investment in some equipment, this is a job that somebody could do. I recommend a realignment after. So I would, if you don't have those tools, maybe, there's a lot of labor. So to pay somebody to do this would be expensive. But maybe you could talk to a CB shop, like a local guy, and say, hey, I'll do the recapping. Would you be willing to realign it? Some guys might not. It depends on your relationship with your shop. But definitely, I think, you know, small investment in equipment and tools, this is doable. I just wanted to show you guys how I do one of these. And that's that. So with that, we're at about a half an hour. Like I said, you guys seem to like these videos. I'm not a video person. Hell, sometimes I don't even like putting myself on the internet, but I do seem to get feedback from you guys that you want to see this stuff. So anyways, there you go. I think that's about it for now, unless I get some questions. Radio Man out.